Doc here with the physics tutorial for Physics 101 Light and Visual Phenomena. The subject, shutter and aperture. Shutter refers to the shutter speed, and the numbers printed on the camera are saving space because 2 means 1/2, 4 means 1/4, 8 means 1/8, 15 means 1/15, 30 means 1/30, etc. So this is a 30th of a second. For a given film and lighting conditions, we have fixed a 30th of a second with f5.6, which means that someone has determined for us that you get a good picture at f5.6 when you use a 30th of a second for your exposure time. If you are to make this exposure time less, to make it 1/2 as much, a 60th of a second being faster, a shorter time, you have to double the area. So remember that when you double the area, the f numbers get smaller because when you divide by a small number here, you have a bigger opening. Remember, d is f over the number. So f divided by 4 is going to be bigger than f divided by 22. So that'll be a smaller diameter. So just remember that when you move from left to right, the way I have it in this table, you are doubling the area at each click. So when we double the area from 5.6 to f4, f5.6 to f4, we then have to compensate by taking 1/2 the time, and then the same amount of light gets to the film. The fact that this works pretty well is called reciprocity. Let's look at a case here. We have a faster film. Since this film is faster, it responds quicker. We don't need to have an opening that is as big as 5.6. That would mess up things. So for a 30th of a second here, we want a smaller opening, and that's given to us based on the film speed and the lighting conditions. Once we have these locked in, when you go 1/2 the time to go from 30 to 60, a 60th of a second instead of a 30th of a second, you have to double the area. So here, if I were to double the time, twice as much time, a 15th of a second is twice as much time as a 30th, I have to halve the area. So you memorize your F number sequence, you memorize your shutter speeds, where here you can think of 1 second, a 1/2 a second, a 1/4 of a second, an 1/8 of a second. It would be a 16th, but you make it a 15, so numbers come out nice, 30 of a second, a 60th, and then 125 because that makes the 250 come out nice. So you remember your sequence of shutter speeds, you remember your sequence of F numbers, and it is given that a pair exists. Once when the pair exists, all the others must fall into place. And I would do this, given an exam question, if you told me that a good picture is taken at f11 with an 1/8 of a second, I would write down all my shutter speeds and all my F numbers underneath, being forced to be written by what you have given me. Once when you give me f11 goes with 8, if I were to go to f8, which is twice as big, I have to go 1/2 on the time. So these all get locked in. You could then have a tough question where what happens if you're way over here at f2, and you just look at your table and read off the table, and that would be a 250th of a second. So once again, you remember your shutter speeds and your apertures, and a pair will be given to you. So think of that as forcing all the others to fall into place. For example, say if 15 is matched with F22, you just go move F22 to the 15 slot. All these other numbers move together, and all the answers are then correct.